The goal of the show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising and marketing. Welcome back to our brand side segment. Today, you're going to learn from Kathy Collins. She is the Chief Revenue Officer at Frontdoor Inc. It's a home services platform best known for American Home Shield. And she'll explain what a chief revenue officer really does, leading marketing, sales, and product strategy, and how her team is reimagining the home warranty category. Listen, you're going to all need to learn about home warranty categories when you buy your first house. It might seem like a while, but you'll get there. But also, in advertising, you're going to have to learn about categories that you're not necessarily involved with. And this is a great example that there is so much creativity in every single category. And you're going to want to save this and come back to it in the future in case you're in this category at an agency. She's going to talk about how she started in PR with a PR roadshow she was flying in a private jet with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. And then she's going to talk about how she went to Lee Jeans and H&R Block, led the marketing there, and how she works with agency partners, specifically Fallon. She's been working with Fallon for many years. She's stuck with them because she loves Fallon and how they approach creativity, and is a partner to her and all of the companies that she'll work for today. That's American Home Shield and Frontdoor Inc. So let's get into it. You're going to love this stuff. Everybody can learn from it. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Collins on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, Brand Side Edition. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Kathy Collins, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Brand Side Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am great. It's wonderful to be here, Gino. Thanks for having me.
Heck yes. Where are you calling in from, Kathy?
I am actually calling in from Kansas City.
Kansas City. Love it. Love it. So we're here to talk about your role as this Chief Revenue Officer at Frontdoor Inc. What does that mean? What's the brand like? Where do you want to take the brand? Who's helping you build the brand? And then how you got into this business, and any advice you have for the next generation, those aspiring marketing professionals. How's that sound?
We could be here all day.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
A lot of big topics there.
Got it. So let's start it nice and easy. What do you like to do outside of work?
Oh gosh. My daughter just got married last weekend. And so I've been so focused on that for the last year. I'm about ready to just kind of finally unplug and go back and do some fun things for myself. Mostly travel a lot. My husband and I love to travel. We have a new puppy. Well, she's now a few months old, but spent a lot of time with the puppy. And then we're lucky enough to have our kids who are grown in town. So we spend a lot of time with them.
Nice. Got it. Well, congrats to your daughter on getting married. I hope that was so fun. So now I need to understand, what is your role? What does CRO mean? And tell me about the brand at Frontdoor Inc.
Sure. So CRO, Chief Revenue Officer at Frontdoor, actually includes a number of things. It includes the marketing functions, all sales functions, both kind of internal and external sales, field sales, as well as product development. And so we actually have a couple of different brands under the Frontdoor Inc. umbrella. One of them that is probably the most well-known in the home warranty category is American Home Shield. And then we also have a couple of other brands, including Frontdoor, which is basically an app that gives people access to experts when something goes wrong in their homes. And then we also recently acquired a brand called 210, which is really an insurance product for home builders when they're building something and something could go wrong structurally or electrically or something else. So again, the category is one that all homeowners should understand, but unfortunately most don't.
Yeah. So you're going to have to help me out here because I do not own a home. I am not even close. I would love to own a home one day. That's the goal, that this business could be successful, that we do that. I do that. But I guess, what are some of the basic things that we need to understand as a younger audience, probably Gen Z, earlier, younger millennials, about the home buying process? What are some of these fundamental things that we need to know that you guys are experts in?
Great question. So, first of all, you'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, fewer and fewer people your age are buying homes. It's very difficult right now because that median price keeps going up on new homes, and it's been a little bit of a struggle for the real estate category. But what you really need to know is once you do buy a home, it's not if, but it's when something will go wrong, and
Mhm.
that's where a home warranty comes into play. So whether it's an appliance breaks, we always hear my oven went out on Thanksgiving Day and I didn't know what to do. Or your systems, your HVAC system, or your electrical, or whenever anything at all, plumbing goes wrong in your house and you have a home warranty, then you're covered. So basically, if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter how old the appliance is. What we do with American Home Shield is if you have that home warranty, we will send a contractor out to fix it as quickly as we possibly can. And then, of course, that is covered by the warranty. So you don't have to pay out of pocket these big, ticket price items that can really set people back, especially when you buy an older home or when you're just starting out with a new home. It's nice to have that coverage. And
Mhm.
like I said, a lot of people don't understand it because they think they have homeowners insurance and maybe, if a flood comes, it's not the same thing. Again, a home warranty is more about those systems and those appliances in your home.
Okay, got it, got it. So then who is like the target audience for this brand? Who are you trying to sell to or trying to talk to right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, and it has shifted a little bit, like you pointed out, there are not as many young people buying homes, but they do, millennials are really kind of our sweet spot. So we're targeting, I hate to say this, but we're targeting all homeowners, home buyers in one way or another, but our real focus is on millennials. That's where the majority of homes are sold. And that's where we see that people are the most stressed about home ownership. So if they have that warranty, they know they're covered and they don't have to think about it.
Mm. So the millennials, and then,
Yep.
and that age range, there's so many subcultures within the term
Yeah.
millennials. How do you guys go about like segmenting them and doing research on them? And like, do you label them different categories? How do you go about that? Because you can't just say millennials, right? Maybe for a
Exactly.
podcast, but we can get a little bit deeper.
Yes. So you're exactly right. So we have done attitudinal and behavioral types of segmentation to better understand that big pool of millennials. So we are looking for the ones who tend to, be a little more stressed about home ownership. We look for the ones who might, for example, in the Hispanic millennial category, there are a lot of multi-generational homes. Composition. So we look for other places where we can possibly break through all the noise. You'll hear me say this term about home warranties, but it's a sea of sameness. Everybody says the same thing. All the competitors look the same. They all have words like protection and shield in their name. So what we're trying to do, especially with the American Home Shield brand, is to break through all that noise and reach those different targets the right way, kind of where they are in their life.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where like that research, those insights come
Right.
in, and then you can develop a campaign targeting a specific
Exactly.
demographic or a kind of a segment there. So, what has been some of the recent work that you guys have done that you're really proud of that kind of personifies what we're talking about, that strategic insight?
So a couple of things. One is the campaign that we launched last year, which is called Warentina. And Warentina is a very Zen-like homeowner. She's played by Rachel Dratch, the
Hmm.
comedian.
Hmm.
And what's been great about that is using humor in this category is not something that had been done very well. Like I said, everybody was kind of saying the same thing, doing the same thing, showing, a toilet overflowing or whatever. So we decided to take a completely different approach, and it's worked very well for us. But the other thing that we did this year through all those insights and the research that you talked about is we realized there was a real opportunity to hit the middle of the marketing funnel. So year one of the Warentina campaign, we were very focused top of funnel with broadcast and big events, trying to get the campaign out and reach as many people as we possibly could. This year, it's more about the middle of the funnel where we can tell our story a little bit better. Like I said, because this category is misunderstood, it's really important for us to get our message through and make people understand the benefits of a home warranty.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you do that? So you have the awareness campaign. People are
Yep.
probably going to the website. Is
Yep.
that the right call to action then? Like check out the website? Like
Yep.
or like that's
That's
ideally what
yes.
happens.
Right.
And then is that where kind of like your owned materials have a little bit more substance to it, a little bit more explanation, maybe some videos? How do you
Yeah.
guys do that?
Right. So if we can get them to a landing page or the website, what we want to do there is make it much more personalized and more experiential. So based on people's information, what they want to share with us, what they're looking for, what they think they need, we're able to provide them the right kind of the right messaging and tell the narrative, give our own narrative the right way to meet
Mhm.
where they are in their life. So if we know, for example, they have two homes, we might give them a slightly different solution on the website than we would if it was a starter home. So we're able to customize in real time.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
something I'm thinking about as a business owner. It's like I'm trying to get it all into the one website, try to talk to every single person all at once, and it's
Yep.
not work. It just doesn't work.
It's very tricky, and you can usually break through with a couple of questions that really start to put them in different buckets, but it does take time. And of course, now with AI coming on, everything when you can now just go to Chat GPT and ask the question, "Do you even need to go to the website?" So
Mhm.
there are so many things that are changing in real time.
Yeah, yeah. That customization I think is so cool that you must have like a really good team and engineers that can program that and get
Yeah.
that tailored to everybody.
We have
It
fabulous data and great engineers who can really work through. All of our analysts are figuring out exactly who these people are that are our 2 million plus members. Yeah.
So this campaign kicked off around a year ago. You said the
Uh-huh.
Warentina, which I think is really fun. Rachel Dratch, who I've met before at briefly at an advertising event, which I think is so cool,
Oh, that's
and she's
great.
fantastic. SNL star. If you guys don't know her, go just do a Google search; you'll recognize her.
Debbie
Um,
Downer.
Debbie Downer, yeah, it's so good. Then who were like? Did you have an external ad agency help you out with the creative execution? How did that play out, or was it all internal?
No, we definitely work with an agency. We work with Fallon
Mhm.
on all the strategy and creative for the brands and the business. Fallon is an agency out of Minneapolis. I have actually worked with them now for 30 years across 4 different companies. So I feel like I have a real connection there, and I have always kind of viewed them as an extension of my team. And that's how they just plug in perfectly. We also work with a digital agency, Chemistry,
Mhm.
out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they are also an amazing partner who is able to then work with Fallon and work with my internal team to make sure that we are all completely connected on the strategy and the creative and how we're using Rachel Dratch and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. So you worked with Fallon for 30 years
Yeah.
and you been across 4 different companies. So like do you just kind of like why is that? You just enjoy the way that they work? It's easier, like they know you, you know them. Is that kind of the
Yeah.
mindset here? You have
Well,
that good
it's
relationship?
yeah, it's really interesting. I've thought a lot about this. And I've worked with other agencies that are fantastic too, but very few of the people that I met 30 years ago at Fallon are still there. There's a
I was gonna
couple.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, people move
But
around or
but
retire
there
or get out of
is
this industry, yeah.
exactly that there is something about the culture that Pat Fallon, who passed away 10 years ago now, that he built. And, he was one of the first to have a Midwestern agency, and that was a big deal.
Mhm.
But what I have come to realize is that I have worked in kind of iconic American leadership brands my entire career. And what I have seen Fallon do repeatedly is take sort of this older, authentic brand that happens to be the leader in their category and find ways to help us reinvent and creatively put a new spin on it. For a number of years, I was at H&R Block. So these are, big companies, like I said, leadership brands. And every campaign I've worked on with them, there's been something there. There's been magic there that has been what just keeps bringing me back to that agency.
That's so cool. That's so great to hear about. Yeah. So, yeah, why wouldn't you wanna go back? That makes so much
Right.
sense there.
Yeah.
Amazing, and I definitely wanna get into all that experience and how you broke into all of this, but, I think what we need to understand is the role of the CRO, because it's
Hmm.
not just about, like, like marketing. It's like the sales element too, which I think these things are really important when we're talking about just advertising. It's just like promotion, like brand awareness
Right.
sometimes. So our listeners, I think, will benefit greatly because a lot of agency professionals that are tuning in. What do you care about most within your role? Like, what keeps you up at night that
Mhm.
that you're thinking about constantly?
So to me, it all starts and ends with the consumer, what they want, what they need. And some of the things you'll hear me say, Gino, might sound a little bit old school, but I still see it working and I still believe in it. So if there is a consumer insight that can drive everything we do in a really powerful and differentiated way, then I think that is the big win. So it starts with, that consumer insight, which helps us then build the products. And again, our product is a service, but we have to deliver the right options for those people, those homeowners who are most likely to purchase a home warranty. We have to find ways to connect with them. On the sales side, we sell a great deal through real estate agents. As you can imagine, it's nice when you're buying a home and the real estate agent says, I'll throw in a home warranty. So
Mhm.
we do quite a bit of relationship building with real estate agents. So our message to them has to be very, very clear and again, differentiated because you've got 20 competitors out there trying to do the same thing and go to the same real estate agents. And then the marketing side of it, like I said, I believe in the magic of marketing and I still believe that, there's gut and there's science and it comes together to deliver something that is unique and that's really, really compelling and makes people, we used to say snap their heads back campaign, which is like, wait, what was that? That was American Home Shield. That was home warranty. Oh, I had no idea. So all of those things coming together and then delivering a great experience across all of it to me is key.
What do you think the biggest difference is between a CRO and a CMO, traditionally, and
Yeah.
maybe in your position too?
Well, I will tell you as a CMO, I did not pay as much attention to the revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So I was always a little bit off to the side. I was aware, I was close to it, but not close enough. Now, it's the first thing I do when I look at in the morning, like what's working and how can we build on the things that are working? Where can I dial up the marketing or the sales efforts or parts of the country that seem to be working? Where can I dial that up and down without busting the budget? So, it's definitely been, a remarkable experience for me just to get a little bit closer to the true business, if you will.
Interesting. Do you think all CMOs should kind of take on that mindset
Yeah.
despite their title?
And like I said, I think all CMOs are close to it, but when you're responsible for it, it means everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's really interesting because it could probably prevent creativity. If you're
Yeah,
worried about revenue and you can go the effectiveness route, or you can go just slam the messaging, increase the ad spend, get the awareness out there, and like there might be some strategies where you just kind of hound this clear message out there, where it might diminish creativity, and that's not the case. You've
right.
realized.
Right, exactly right. Of course, efficiency is important and, CPAs are important and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you're not pulling creativity in and you can't find ways to differentiate, then you're not going to get ahead.
And it speaks volumes with your agency partners, Chemistry
Yes.
and Fallon, that you are
Yeah,
investing in that creative
exactly.
output. So that
Right.
makes sense. And you've learned a lot. So I want to kick it back to, when did you realize you wanted to work in advertising marketing? What were you doing? Do you regret it? And then how did you eventually break in once you realized?
So I think my story is a little bit unique, because I knew pretty much from the start, that this is what I wanted to do. But I will tell you, I went to college in the 80s. And in the 80s, everybody who went into business went into accounting.
Hmm.
So I did start out, and the big goal was, you're going to work for one of the big 8 accounting firms at the time. And I think it was 8. And so I started in accounting, but I actually started working for the business dean the School of Business. And I really connected with him. And 2 weeks in, I said to him, I just don't think this is for me. And he said, I don't think it's for you either. And I was so thrown by that because I thought, oh, he's really going to push me into this accounting field. And he said, why don't you try marketing? And so I immediately switched my major, not really knowing, but I was literally 3 hours into my first marketing course, and I was like, "Yeah, this is what I want to do." So I, started out with consumer behavior classes and some media classes and just general marketing classes, and then PR, and everything started to layer on top, and I just fell in love with all of it. And so I was, like I said, I'm probably one of the really unique cases that I graduated knowing what I wanted to do. My first job was actually in PR, and I had the opportunity to do a road show with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. So I worked in, it was a short lived tech career, but boy, what a way to start your career.
You did a
Um,
road show with them. So
yes,
you're
yeah,
working for who was putting on, like, how does that even work? As the PR company, you're helping
right.
like put on the
So
road
I,
show. Who's paying for the road show?
Oh, again, this is one of those I could tell you stories for 3 days, but it was pretty amazing. So, this was again back in the late '80s, and so Microsoft was launching for the first time Windows, and Steve Jobs had left Apple and gone to start the Next company. So he
Mhm.
had a Next box. So the company I worked for, which was called Innovative Software, we had one of the first programs that ran on those two platforms. So they wanted to go out to, we did a number of cities across the country, starting with New York City. And so the reason I got to go was I was demoing our software on these new platforms. And so it was mostly, the tech community and media and that sort of thing. And we were Windows of the World in New York. And so I literally traveled on a little private jet with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. And it was, like I said, I was in my 20s, and what an experience it was. And nothing but wonderful things to say about both of them and that whole experience. But that was kind of how I started. So I was in PR, I was doing the interviews with the media. And then I just continued to, there were certain things I loved more than others. I loved data, I loved strategy. So I just continued to kind of layer what I was doing in my career, and it just worked out. I've worked really, really hard. So I don't want to say, oh, I'm just lucky. But I've been really, truly blessed by just one great opportunity after the next.
Did things get contentious on the planes and like when behind closed doors when media were
Were
when
they
the mics were off?
competitive?
Yeah.
Well, no, the next box never quite took off the
Mm.
way, he had imagined it, so that's when he went back to Apple, and I think he probably was pretty happy with that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Did you any of those like quotes, memorable moments like really stick out that you can paint a picture for us?
I do remember, Bill Gates saying at one point, "Don't worry about the data. Don't worry." And I just thought that was so funny coming from him, but he was being interviewed about something. But even then, I mean, this would have been like 1989, 88, 89. Um, but he was just so humble and so gracious, and I remember thinking how generous he was, and he already was, setting up philanthropies, and he knew what he
Mhm.
wanted to accomplish, and I just, that's been a long time, but he's always been very, very clear on what he wants his legacy to be, and that was just really, really impressive.
Yeah, I saw like he posted like a chart like explaining how he's going to try to like eliminate his net worth by the
Yep,
end of his life, and he has
yep,
like a plan to donate charities, everything he does, which I
right.
think is really really cool.
Yeah,
So that's that. I
not
mean,
just giving it to his kids either.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think it's so inspiring like that you got that so early in
Oh,
your
yeah.
career. Like you were put in this environment of with successful people. You were probably
Yep.
so inspired. You're on a private jet. You're like
Yeah.
you probably get that hunger. You're like, I want to keep doing this. Like, how do I keep chasing that? So what did you end up doing? What were some of those like 2 to 3 big decisions that you've made or stumbled across your lap where it really took you to where you're at today?
Yeah. So I went to Lee Janes after Innovative Software was bought by Informix. And then I ended up switching at that point and going to Lee Jeans, which was part of the VF Corporation, which is at the time was the largest apparel manufacturer in the world. And oh my gosh, was that fun. So I started out as, I think, a director of strategy and research, and then I continued to build, and that's where I first got the VP of marketing title. And one of the things we did there, and Gino, you're going to have to go look this up, is the Buddy Lee campaign, which is still a highlight of my career. And again, the great work of Fallon. But it was really, really a powerful campaign. And this was in the 90s. It was named by Business Week as one of the best campaigns of the decade. But it was what I loved about it. It was taking something again from a 100-year-old denim brand, and it was something from our heritage and making it cool again. And so it was a very powerful campaign. Our goal when we set out was to grow share on the men's side of our business. We had a very strong position with women, and we ended up, I remember when that campaign launched and we changed one product and we started beating Levi out of sales at some of our key retailers like JCPenney and Sears and Kohl's. And it was such a big deal. To beat
Yeah.
Levi out of anything has always been a big deal. And yet we felt it starting to come together. And I absolutely loved the experience I had there. I stayed there for about 15 years, and I had lived, I might have mentioned this, in Kansas City almost my entire life. And I had another opportunity pop up while I was at Lee, which was headquartered in Kansas City, and that was H&R Block, also headquartered in Kansas City. Um, and they offered me an opportunity to go in as VP of marketing there. And I kind of had decided I loved Lee, but I thought I needed to do something different. So the tax prep category, not quite as fun, but it ended up being one of my favorite jobs. I've loved all my jobs, but this one was really special. And again, got to be the CSO, Chief Strategy Officer, then the Chief Marketing Officer, and a category that is, like tax prep, where everybody who has a job is going to have their taxes done. It felt so big and so fun and so competitive. We worked, our biggest competitors were TurboTax, and I've just
Mhm.
still continue to watch how the two brands kind of compete in different spaces. So it's been really, really wonderful. But we did a campaign there, which was called Get Your Billions Back America. And it was actually featuring one of our tax professionals. He wore a little green bow tie. And the whole idea was that when you don't have your taxes done by an H&R Block tax pro, you're probably leaving money on the table. So this whole idea, he would yell, get your billions back, America. And that campaign worked wonders
Yeah.
and did so much for the business and for the brand. And again, another old brand kind of reinventing it and making it feel new again. So that was another really powerful time.
Amazing. So to go back for the Buddy Lee campaign, was that like the
Mm-hmm.
first foray into, this creative advertising can be effective?
Yeah, 100%. And I remember thinking, like I said, when the results started to show what they did, which was growth, and especially on the male side of the business, was the first time I completely believed myself. And I knew, and people would say it's just an ad. But it's so much more than that when you can start to get into people's heads and hearts and make them think a little bit differently. And that's what we did.
Wow. Yeah, that was probably so fundamental
Yeah,
for the rest of your career to have that moment, to be able to call back to that, to show the proof that trust me on this, everybody, any doubters within the
right.
organization, trust me on this, it's going to work. And sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes and most of the time it does work. So I
Right,
love that
right.
as well. Did who were some of the big players at Fallon that you worked with over the years? I'm
Oh,
really
wow.
curious.
Well, so I mentioned Pat Fallon,
Hmm.
and God rest his soul. He was such a power player in terms of really believing in advertising and what we could do, and worked with a lot of big brands. They did some great work with BMW at the same time they were doing work with Lee and so many other brands. So working with him was just an honor. I mean, so many great creatives over the years: Jeff Kling,
Hmm.
Damon. Now, of course, that you put me on the spot, and now Leslie Schaefer and Nikki Baker. Nikki's now actually the CEO. Have all just been phenomenal, and Ryan Peck and Scott O'Leary, and getting to work with those people, it's life changing. When you can start to see the genius coming out in real time. And when they start to understand your business, it's not just about another piece of creative. It's about they want to win, and they want to win with us, and they want to see the results. And that's why we're having so much fun now with Front Door, is we're seeing the results. I think our ad awareness has doubled in a couple of years. So, that's something that you just don't see very often.
I love it. So, looking back at your career, bringing us back to where you're at today, what advice would you have for two people in mind? People that the first one is people that want to get into advertising, and the other
Mhm.
segment here is the people that want to get into marketing. Because
Mhm.
you've learned from both sides,
Yep.
I think you can easily talk that. Which one do you want to do first?
So marketing.
Yeah.
I would say there's not one type of person. There's not one skill set. There are so many different skill sets. I think people hear marketing and they immediately think, oh, you got to be a creative. You have to, I always laugh like I try so hard to make a pretty PowerPoint and I can't do it. And I've been in marketing all my life, but I know what looks good. So,
Hmm.
there are so many different skill sets. There's very analytical people who work on my team that I couldn't live without. There's very creative people that work on my team, and there's everything in between. There's a strategic brain that thinks about things very differently than the creative person might. So I think all of those play together. And when you've got great people who are analytical, who are very strategic, who are very creative, and you can bring all of them together, that's when you're going to have a winning team. So don't feel like maybe I'm not cut out for marketing. Chances are there's something there for you. And if it's something that interests you and inspires you, go for it.
Love.
And I don't think my answer on advertising is all that different. What I love to see come together is it's a creative way of solving a problem. And so when I can get a creative team in a room to think about what the real problem is and what we're solving for, that is half the battle. And I think so many times, like I said, we've all worked with agencies who can do great creative, but it's not really solving the problem. So at the root of everything, you got to have people who can think about the business and understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. And that's all important to advertising. And then the creative side of that. So, I think the actual true creative spirit is embodied by all those people. Everybody wants a great creative solution, but you got to start with the business problem.
Hmm. Hmm. I think I mean, it's probably pretty tough to really kind of put that into a marketing brief that you send to the agency. Like,
Right.
what's
Right.
the clear problem?
Yep.
What's the demographic? What are we trying to achieve here? Like getting that like clear, because I've done that before, and I've even like made a mistake. Like, actually, I want to pivot. Like, this wasn't the right brief, and
Yep.
then then it steers them in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of experience and practice to digest, strategize on the marketing and the brand side first, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say our CEO spends a day every quarter with our agencies talking about the business.
Hmm.
And that is also, I mean, it's one of those things I could do it, but to hear him talk about it, I think even pulls them in tighter and they all want to be more connected and be a bigger part of the solution. So that's been really, I think, really powerful as well.
Amazing. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you.
speaking with us. How can people reach out to you or find more about if there's any internships, job openings on the marketing side? Is that available?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, for sure. That's probably the best way. I check it pretty frequently.
Amazing. Great. Well, then I wish you all the best. You keep on
Thank
rocking
you.
it. Let us know when you have new work coming out.
All
We'll
right.
review it, put it on the whiteboard potentially. It's good stuff. We want to keep celebrating you.
Thank you so much, Jano.
Cool.
Have
Well,
a great
nice job.
day.
Thank you.